Hey, welcome to Old Ass Movie Reviews. I'm Scott. There's Dave right there, maybe. Anyway, we know he's here. Hey, have we got a treat for you today? We're going into a double feature of Enola Holmes 1 and 2, the Millie Bobby Brown starring and, if I'm not mistaken, produced as well. This is
I think
kind
her
of like
production company was in charge of it, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, she
and
is.
I think it was probably her dad. Her dad's name is Robert.
Yeah, so
or cousin, brother, whoever it is.
Her dad is Bobby too. Okay, so it gets
That's
a little
what
confusing.
I thought was funny. So now you know who Bobby is, who she's named after.
Okay, all right, now that makes sense. Not the Bobby Brown from the '90s hip hop.
Yeah,
not the Bobby Brown that married Whitney. But okay, so some of you folks may know Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things, which is pretty much did put her on the path to stardom. Because of the success of that show, she was able to start a production company and then do movies and stuff that she likes. And I always appreciate when an actor or somebody goes out and they just make their way.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what she's done here. And I think she shines more here than she actually does in Stranger Things. And that's...
I've never watched all of Stranger Things. I've seen bits and pieces of it. I
highly recommend it.
One day. Just watch both. It's just 2 series right now, right?
4 seasons.
Oh, it's 4. I'm a little behind, folks.
The last season is amazing. Each episode's like an hour. I mean, like a movie. They're like 2-hour episodes.
Right.
It's phenomenal. Yeah, I love the show. I think it started off good, then had a little rocky middle, and then this last season, just like finally, you guys finally nailed the 80s. Finally, after me bitching all these years, they finally nailed it. Because I think and we talk about this a lot, and this is not a Stranger Things podcast, but when a lot of places or a lot of movies try and do the 80s or TV shows, they think, oh, we just need acid wash, day glow, and somebody's going to say totally for sure. And we're going to put some synth pop music in, and that doesn't make the 80s, folks. It doesn't.
There's a definite feel.
There's a definite feel. And when the feel to me that I see is we don't give a fuck if we offend you. We're just doing a movie and we're having a good time. And that's the vibe I get from all the 80s movies. They're like, fuck it, let's have a good time.
Yeah, and I think they finally nailed it. If you got the joke, great. If you didn't, there's another one coming.
It's coming.
You were offended by that joke? Well, the next joke's going to offend the guy sitting next to you, probably.
And you might even be double offended. But anyway.
Or you might be double offended.
So because of that show, she was able to start this. And so what we have here is a series of movies called Enola Holmes, which is based off a young adult series of books. I forget who wrote them. But the first movie is a direct adaptation of the books, whereas the second one is creation. Using the characters.
I think Nancy Springer.
That's it. Yes.
And Nancy Springer wrote the Enola Holmes books.
Right. So Dave, tell our listeners a little bit about who is Enola Holmes.
Well, Enola Holmes is Sherlock Holmes' little sister and Mycroft Holmes' little sister. And she is the daughter of Eudora Holmes, which is Mycroft and Sherlock's mom. And she is played by Helena Bonham Carter, which I just love that she's...
Oh, absolutely. Great casting. Great casting all around in both of these movies.
Yeah. The first movie, for anybody who's never read Sherlock Holmes, I highly recommend reading all the Sherlock Holmes stories. I've read them all the way through. I've read them then I've gone back and read certain stories like the Red-Headed League and things like that. That's stuff that I find really just kind of fascinating for whatever reason. Like, certain stories really stuck out to me that I thought were really good. So I really like Sherlock Holmes. And when I first saw this come out, I was afraid. I was very afraid.
I would imagine.
I was just afraid.
I was like, what is this shit?
The wife and I were talking about this. Now, in the first one, Enola has sent a letter or had received a letter from her brother Mycroft to meet them at the train station. Well, Mycroft and Sherlock are under the assumption that there will be a stage or
a carriage,
a carriage sent for them, and they will go out and see what's going on with their mother and their sister. Well, when they get to the train station, Enola has pedaled her way from the house, which looks to be about a 6-mile.
It looks like a long.
That was a heck of a pedal. And she's fallen off the bike several times because she's not a bike rider.
Filthy.
She's like, I have not figured out the secret of the bike, but I'm getting there. I'm warming up.
She does by the end of the movie.
By the end of the movie, she's a pretty good bike rider. But it's funny that because she hits the ground a couple of times, she's rolling. When she finally gets to the train station, Sherlock and Mycroft are walking towards her. She sees them and she's like smiling. She's like walking up to them, and they both walk right by her.
They don't even recognize her. Yeah.
She turns around and she's looking at him like, Sherlock, Mycroft, and they both turn around. They're like, and Mycroft doesn't make the connection, but Sherlock, of course, does. He's like, Enola, wow. And Mycroft's all bent out of shape because she's not wearing a hat. She doesn't have her gloves. She's filthy. Her hair's not done. And he's just an asshole.
He is, and he plays it so well. I just want to reach this screen and choke Mycroft for being such a douche.
And this is where my biggest problem. I have two problems with the series in general. Mm-hmm. And I both put them to the side. My biggest problem is with Mycroft. Mycroft is a really fat guy in the books. Mm-hmm. And I was explaining to Kat like why I didn't like this Mycroft. And she said, well, maybe this is because he's younger. Maybe he hasn't gotten to, where he's a big guy sitting in the club and, helping Sherlock in a very remote way of doing it.
Right.
Because Sherlock, when he has a really big problem, he takes it to Mycroft, and Mycroft, basically has the answer for him when he gets there. And because that's how intelligent Mycroft is. He's even better at doing things than Sherlock for the most part.
Damn.
Sherlock has very much footy going, poking and looking. That was part of my problem with Mycroft, was that he was a skinny guy. He was out and about. And I was like, okay, I will take into account that he is a younger version here. And he's not the older guy sitting in the club smoking the pipe and doing whatever.
I did get the impression this is early on in Sherlock's career where he's just starting to recognize some fame.
But it doesn't, for me, take away the fact that they had Mycroft be a complete bastard son of a bitch in this movie, which is a guy who plays him.
Oh my God, he's great.
You hate Mycroft.
But you should.
But in none of the books that I've ever read does Mycroft come across as that type of character.
Yeah, so maybe
I realized they needed to push. They needed to get that sympathy for Enola.
Needed that, yeah.
Yeah, you needed that. But there was a better way. He could have just played it really cold-hearted.
Well, maybe that's the way.
He was just a jerk. Really.
Well, maybe that's how Nancy had written Mycroft for this, and I see why he's a device. You have to have somebody like that, whether it be him or anybody, to make you feel for Enola. Because I'm sorry that the way he did that, he did it so well. I was in her camp right away, and it's like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, and I like Millie Bobby Brown, and I don't know if they do this in the books, but she breaks the fourth wall
so many times, man.
A lot.
I love it.
Especially the first episode, and very much so in the second episode. Oh, yeah. But something will be happening. She'll be having a conversation with Sherlock, or she'll be doing something, investigating, and people will be in the room with her, and she'll look at the camera and start talking to the camera, to the audience. It's like, this isn't going on the way I had planned. When I jumped out of the train, blah, blah, blah. And then she'll turn around and nobody's noticed that she's talking, that she's broke the fourth wall, because they're still doing what they're doing.
That's what's wonderful. It's well done. It was
just fantastic. I love the way they did that. But the point of Enola is her brother Mycroft wants to send her to a finishing school. She doesn't want to go. She runs away. She jumps on a train. She's going to find her mom. She's like, heck with this. I'm going to go find mom. Mom's disappeared. Going to go find mom. In the interim, she has met Lord Tewkesbury, who is running away from home also, because he doesn't.
Marquis of Basilweather.
Yes, it was too long for me to remember.
It was awesome because she said it every time.
I know. And she just insults this guy who's a lord.
She's horrible to him.
He's a lord, and she's supposed to, in that kind of situation, you're supposed to be nice to him, whether
He's
you
like
like the guy
royalty.
or not. She's just rude to the guy. She just treats him like she would treat anybody else.
That's what's awesome about her.
And he loves it.
That tells you so much about Enola herself, because I mean,
Mhm.
she's such a free spirit and just I don't give a fuck.
And at some point, she realizes she can't find her mother. There's something missing. She can't figure it out, but she can help Lord Tewksbury.
Yeah.
So she goes to find him again. Their little intrigue is tied up in the fact that he doesn't really want to be a lord. He doesn't want to go to the army because there's some big vote coming up of changing like women's rights and stuff in Britain.
It's the suffrage movement. He
knows how he wants to handle it, but he's afraid to. It's growing.
He's a young kid. He's like
he's 16 or
17 years old.
He's about the same age as Enola Holmes, so he's trying to grow up also.
Let me add in on something on that.
Go ahead,
because it's we talk about the whole thing based around her mother disappearing, Helena Bonham Carter, which you find out through watching this. She is a big part of this women's rights suffrage movement, and basically a revolutionary. We're talking terrorist level.
She's got bombs. We'll just call her what she is. She's a terrorist.
Sure. The terror. You're either a terrorist or a freedom fighter, depending on what side you're on. So I'm just saying.
Exactly.
You're an insurgent or you're fighting for freedom. Which is it? So anyway, she's kind of. But I want to say, when Enola first sees Tewksbury, he's hiding in her train sleeping car.
Yeah, in her car.
Because actually his family is trying to kill him.
But he doesn't know it at this point.
He doesn't know his grandmother wants him dead, because they know how he's going to vote. In fact, they killed his father because of how he was going to vote. Well, so that's how it comes about. But I would argue that Enola falls for Tewksbury the minute she sees him.
And he falls for her.
Yes. It's obvious. But they
both like,
she refuses to acknowledge that. Mm-hmm. She has to go kicking and screaming to the fact that she has fallen for Tewksbury.
Yeah. That's those two have really good chemistry. And I said it last night to the old lady. I was like, these two have better chemistry in the few minutes that they've been on screen than Anakin and Padme had in all 3 episodes.
It's the sand.
Yeah, it's the sand. Sand and everything. But those two actors had really good chemistry. The actor and actress together, just such good.
It was cast well.
Yeah, because when they got close, you could feel the tension.
Yeah, it's well done.
He was tense. He was tense. It was very nice. But the grandmother, I didn't guess the first time watching it. We were trying to figure out, okay, the uncle, it seems too Scooby-Doo, like.
It was a good twist. It was a really good twist.
Then I started thinking, who was the person that you would least expect in the family? The mom. You'd think, maybe, the mom would probably, but why would the mom kill him? And then you're like, I could definitely understand the uncle, but that's too
obvious.
Yeah, that's too rip the mask off. Oh, it's Mr. Johnson Fetterman from the, from the fair.
Oh, he's a transgendered, non-binary, black lesbian Indian. Oh, what?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
From the fair. But it's like, you watch this.
Well, I get some hate for that one, so whatever.
Mail away. But
please, at least it'd be a fucking email.
When it's the grandmother, yeah, right. When it's the grandmother, you realize, oh crap, this old lady doesn't want anything to change.
No, and that was surprising.
She is really stoic in her ways, and the good thing for Tewksbury, he's got that. He slips on. For anybody who's not watched, I mean, we're basically just telling you about the movie, but I'm about ready to go into spoiler territory. So
spoilers abound, folks.
When the guy has the shotgun and he's trying to shoot Tewksbury, and then finally the grandmother shoots him. The first time I saw that, I was like, "Holy shit! They killed the guy."
I know. I mean, even the second time, I forgot so much. Yeah.
I literally fell for it.
Yeah, I did twice, man. I did twice.
Yeah, and then. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, the guy that's trying to kill him, played by Bern Gorman, who, if you're familiar with Torchwood, he was one of the main characters on Torchwood.
Good villain.
Yeah, but he plays that villain role really, really well. I mean, he's
Man.
got a great look. And
Mhm.
he is like nonstop. He is the Terminator. He is the T-2000 coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
He's more than once tackled or played footsie with Enola,
oh my God.
fighting her and shit. There's no way a 16-year-old girl could kick his ass, but they
But
would show
she
that fight scene.
outsmarted him. She
Yeah,
outsmarted. She knew
once or
she couldn't
twice she
beat
got
him.
him. Yeah, she knew she couldn't get him. I like the one time she's trying to do that move around his
The
leg.
corkscrew or whatever. Yeah.
She just gets stuck, and he looks at her, he just freaking nails her. When it's like, oh man, don't do a move if you can't do it.
Oh, I mean, yeah, here's the thing. They do not hold back. Millie Bobby Brown does not hold back from the stunts in this and the physicality of this role. She gets her ass kicked.
Thrown up against that wall. I mean, even knowing how they did some of this stuff, you still got to throw yourself up against. You still got to make it look real. So you're coming at it from a couple of feet. You know,
the only thing I caught, and it was reminiscent of Big Trouble in Little China, where you could see the pavement was actually padding when she goes to that she finds that jujitsu school.
Yeah.
And she gets tossed onto the ground. You can see that the rug she's on is about this high off the floor.
Well, she walks in and there's mats.
Okay.
So she's walking across.
Well, they're in the training area, but when they went back in the office and she gets flipped
in the office. Okay.
In the office, she actually hits a mat that's covered with a rug. And it's like, I hate that I see little shit like that, but it's like, okay, no big deal. I am looking for it. I'm looking for everything that they might have done wrong, which is but they do so much right, it's not a big deal.
And here's the thing, like we were talking about Cavill earlier.
Yeah. Yes.
Like you said, from your mouth to the Lord's ears.
I would love to see
Henry Cavill, Sherlock Holmes.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping they're doing a third Enola Holmes.
I hope so.
Because I want to see what that Dr. Watson does.
Yeah.
I want to see how good he plays Watson, whether he plays it like the book Watson or whether he plays it like so many other Watsons that are terrible play it, like just the big bumbling buffoon Watson.
Yeah.
That's not how Watson is written in the book. Watson is written more like the Shadow Games or Game of Shadows and stuff like that.
Did you watch the Martin Freeman Cumberbatch?
I watched a couple of them. That was more how
well
Watson
done.
was. That's how Watson was kind of more so in the books.
Not a bad show.
No, I enjoyed what I watched of it. I enjoyed it.
I never finished it, but I did enjoy at least the first season.
It either.
Yeah.
I know that they did the falls where the guy, instead of taking him to the waterfall and falling, they had him fall off a building. And I'm like, you're not faking that. You just fell 12 stories. Yeah. You're not fucking faking that, dude. I'm out.
But like you, seeing Cavill and just seeing how Cavill's been, I feel dicked around lately between Netflix and HBO. And now here's another person like Millie Bobby Brown. Cavill goes and does his own thing. Yeah. He has his own production company. He's, I guess, all in on this Warhammer 40K gaming adaptation of movies, which is awesome. So
I just hope that he has final say on everything because he is a gamer and he is a fan.
Well, that's why he was so great in The Witcher and so disgusting that they took The Witcher away from the stories, apparently, allegedly, and that's why.
Well, no, not allegedly, dude. From all accounts.
Well, I haven't.
They just came straight out and admitted it.
Yeah, I don't read a bunch.
And I don't follow The Witcher, but I have followed his career ever since you and I started talking about him being Superman. And again, when I finally started liking him as Superman, they take that away. Blah blah blah.
Well,
but in this, he's a really good Sherlock Holmes.
He is, and where I first really enjoyed seeing him was in Mission Impossible Fallout. I don't
think I've ever seen that one.
I am a fan of the Mission Impossible movies. I will watch Tom Cruise jump off anything. I think he's America's answer to Jackie Chan.
I would say yes. That's the closest thing that they've got.
Because I'm watching this thing. If you go on HBO now, they have some behind the scenes of the new Mission Impossible. I think it was on HBO or I saw it on YouTube, where they create the largest stunt ever filmed, and it's insane. He jumps a motorcycle off a cliff and with a parachute on. It's nuts. And they show how they did it and how Tom is he's Jackie Chan, man. He does it all, and it's nuts.
You know
Absolutely
what?
Nuts.
He's a guy who probably looks at life and goes, I've only got one to live. I might as well have fun doing it.
Yeah.
Your universe is opening.
It is. Anyway.
Back to this.
Yes.
There is a guy who plays Inspector Lestrade in the first one.
And he looks so familiar.
He shows back up in the second one. His name is Adil Akhtar, and he plays...
I have seen him in something.
The funny thing is, folks, they never really say who Lestrade is. I mean, you know that he's kind of a bumbling inspector. He has such a begrudging... He doesn't like Sherlock Holmes initially in the first stories, but by the time the series actually wraps up and comes to an end of all those stories, Lestrade really, he kind of likes Sherlock Holmes. He knows he needs him at times. He'll go to him and go, look, we've tried, I don't want to come to you, but I got no choice, that kind of thing.
Right.
And eventually Sherlock Holmes has a begrudging respect for Lestrade. Like, he knows he's trying. He knows he's actually a good copper. So that's good. This version of Lestrade, I really like the way this guy plays him. Because he's looking for the sister for Mycroft. And then Lestrade, to Mycroft's amazement, has figured out, oh, this girl that I'm looking for is your sister. And Mycroft's like, you can't tell anybody. You can't tell anybody. He's like, your secret's safe with me. It's just, okay, I'll go find her, no big deal.
Yeah.
But the guy plays Mycroft, or plays Lestrade. He does a really good job. He's got the big mutton chops,
He's got a great look. And, he looks like he stepped right out of Victorian England.
Yeah, they all do. I mean,
they all do. That's perfect.
I really like the first series. They really build up Tewksbury and Enola's romance. But blossoming romance. Yeah. And the fact that she says she's at one point, he's like, I'm a man. She goes, you're a man when I tell you you're a man. And it's just like, how many women have said shit like that to you, like your whole life? You're like, really?
She's a great character. She's a great character. And
the lady who came up with her, that Nancy Springer, she did a good job. Because she kept the mythos of Sherlock Holmes true to who Sherlock Holmes was. And in this one drunk scene, but even then, you find out he wasn't as drunk as he was pretending to be.
And that's one of the things. Sherlock, Mycroft, Lestrade, they're all secondary players in here. And it is on its face, it is Enola Holmes basically following the footsteps of her smarter older brother, or we could argue smarter. But
definitely smarter, because she bumbles on to
but she's
the
young,
grandmother.
But she's so quick to figure things out.
She bumbles on to the grandmother.
Yeah.
Sherlock didn't bumble on. He figured it all out. But his problem was he didn't get to the answer before his sister did.
But she figured out her mom real fast.
She figured out what was going on with the mom. And I think Sherlock did too. He just left it alone, because I don't think
they were I got the feeling in the first one they were keeping a lot of it from Mycroft because, and Sherlock finally came around, and that's what I was happy to see. It's like, man, you're going to let your sister be shipped off like this? What is wrong with you? Now, I want to talk about the headmistress real quick. I believe played by Fiona Shaw.
Such a good actress. And
I've spent the whole time watching this. It's like, where have I seen her? Where have I seen her? Then it dawned on me. Don't you have a revolution to run on Andor? I'm just saying. She was...
Is she in Andor?
She is the foster parent to Cassius Andor on the show. And she's also the leader of the rebellion.
Oh.
And by the end of the first season, she's dead. And one of the things they do as tradition is they take the person's ashes, if they're a member of this revolution, and they turn them into a brick and build a wall. Well, the Empire strikes during the middle of her funeral ceremony, basically. So this one guy takes his brick and he's bashing stormtroopers with her brick. And it's like, that is brilliant. She's dead and she's kicking ass.
And she's still killing stormtroopers.
Yes. So I was like, where have I seen this woman? It's like, oh my God.
Just for that scene alone, I would watch Andor.
I've got nothing but good to say about Andor. So
Really?
say what you.
Okay.
I loved
That's good.
Andor. Thought it was good. So
If I can ever find it
not on Disney.
ripped from somebody and somebody's got it burned into a disc and I buy it off of eBay, then maybe I'll buy it.
All right.
Disney's not getting any more of my money, man. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So again, well cast. It
Yeah,
really
yeah.
there's a lot of plot devices early on that get you right in Enola's camp. That
Yeah.
if you're not with her, then I don't know why you're watching this damn movie.
And here's the funny thing is it's really well written. It's serious where it needs to be serious, and it's humorous where it needs to be humorous.
Yeah,
There's a
it's
lot of people when they read the Sherlock Holmes, a lot of people miss the humor that
yeah.
that
Arthur Conan
Arthur
Doyle.
Conan Doyle put in, but he did do humorous stuff.
Mhm.
Like it, and it's very funny, especially when him and the Dr. Watson are talking back and forth, or Watson's saying something, and Holmes is like teaching him, no, that's not why this is. It's because of this other thing. And then you find out in later stories that he needs Watson because though he's Sherlock Holmes and he knows a bunch of different stuff, there's certain things that Watson as a doctor knows that he doesn't, but he can't let Watson know this. He's just got to get Watson to kind of just come
Right.
out and say something. And then he's like, "Oh, good, yeah, you're absolutely right, Watson." And Watson's like, "Wait a minute." It never comes out, but Watson's always has those. Wait a minute! Did I just help you with a case? Kind of moments,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So that's always good.
Yeah.
Um,
So in this first movie, it is Enola trying to find her mother, and she does. And
yeah,
again, this is based on these movies are historical fiction, which I like.
yeah.
I like when it's done that way. There's a message hiding in here, and it's not swung with a hammer.
No, not really.
It's
No.
not. It feeds the backstory. It makes sense, and it's
Mhm.
good. It explains why the mother was so secretive, why she was moving in the shadows, because
Mhm.
basically they would hang her if they found out she was doing this.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. No
easy.
matter whose mom you were.
Yeah, it didn't matter. So she's quite the spirit, I should say,
Yeah,
and we definitely
she's
see
very
that as it gets into the
interesting.
second movie.
Oh
Which,
yeah.
let's talk about part two, because part two does the exact same thing. Takes a
Mhm.
historical event, and what I read is this is not from a Nancy Springer story. This is one they created for just the movie.
Oh really?
Yes,
This wasn't in
dealing
the book.
no.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that
According
either.
to Wikipedia, but we know how that can be.
All
Uh,
right.
yeah.
Nothing
So it
but
deals
facts there, folks.
yeah. It deals with the matchstick girls, the girls who
Right.
made matches, and
Mhm.
dealing in horrible working conditions when we're suffering poisoning from white phosphorus and being pushed off as typhus.
Mhm.
And it's typhoid fever. And it's like, no, you're killing your workforce by these
Yeah.
poor girls who barely make enough to live. And in this one, Enola is hired to find one of the girls
Yeah. Find one of the girls that's missing.
that's missing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
They're all living in this like rat
awful.
infested house
Yeah.
hovel. There's like a bunch of the factory worker girls are there,
Yeah.
and one of the little
This was
girls.
probably not uncommon.
What's funny, or the good thing is Enola's all hyped up from the last movie. She's starting out, and she's like, "I've started my own company.
Yes.
I'm going to be an investigator like my brothers." And she's got her sign on the wall, and she's got her name on the window. She's got the pamphlets, and nobody's coming to see her. And when they
No.
do, they're like, "Sherlock Holmes, is Sherlock Holmes around?" And she's like, "No, I'm the investigator." How
Yeah.
old are you? You're just a girl. I mean,
Yeah.
and they give her like just as you would. I mean, if I walked in and I was looking for an investigator, and let's say I'm looking for Charlie Chan Investigations, and I get his son, I'm going to look at him and go, "How old are you?" No. What is your dad
Just
available?
go ahead and insult him, because his dad's going to come out and insult him anyway.
Yes,
Just get it
exactly.
over with.
I'm just going to wait a couple of seconds. I'm going to work up a really good insult, and your old man's going to beat me out to it.
Yep.
But
Every
but
time.
that's but so it's not just that she's a girl, but it's that she's not Sherlock Holmes, is what
It's
it
not.
boils down
Well,
to.
no, and it's perfect, because this is the time frame nobody's going to pay attention, and today
No.
nobody's going to pay attention to a kid.
No, they're
So
just not. I mean, if I
it's just
walked
not.
into somebody's office today and they were 16 and they're like, "No, I'm the investigator." Who are you, fucking Encyclopedia Brown? Get your fucking dad out here. That's an old reference, and I don't know if anybody's going to get it. You got it?
Anyway, yes.
Oh, Encyclopedia Brown. Those were good stories.
Yeah.
Anyway, you could keep telling the story.
Well, no, and that's where it goes. So that is the setup for the second one.
Right.
Mom makes another appearance, and as you've already alluded to, we get the appearance of Watson by the end of the movie.
Yeah, that was a good show.
And again, another well cast, well shot, well written story. And what I liked about it is there's a lot of things that happen in this movie that caused me to get on the Google afterwards, and it was the Matchstick Girls. Because of some things that are everyday vocabulary and words that we hear, you start to see where things might have come from. And what I mean by that is I knew nothing about how dances were in this time frame. Right. So I never
the fans?
Yeah. I've always heard the term my dance card's full, meaning I've got too much shit going on. That's a real thing. You would go to these dances.
Know about dance cards?
I didn't know about dance cards. I didn't know about matchmaking. Matchmaking meant more than literally matchmaking, but it had to do with these girls at the dance who were matchmakers. Yeah. And it's like,
right.
Dude, I had no idea. So seeing the etymology of the words,
wow.
It was cool to me. It was educational.
Cool. You know, one of the reasons I know about matchmakers, now this is a movie we're going to have to do.
Okay.
Fiddler on the Roof.
Okay, sure.
Matchmaker.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I know, but also I'm Slavic, so that just kind of comes. I don't know where the hell I read about it, just learned about it. My mom is from Kentucky. They had matchmakers back in the hills and shit. So yeah, it's just something that I kind of grew up with. So I'm kind of, I guess, used to it, for lack of a better term. The fans, though, and the dances and the way certain dances were danced.
Yeah, there's a language there.
And the women held their fans. I didn't know about that.
That was wild.
New to me, because I looked over at Kat and I was like, because she does like a lot of Victorian romance. And
so she was probably aware of that.
A writer, so KatMankos.com.
Go check her out.
Go check please. Actually, it's Mystic Cat.
Mystic Cat. With a K.
Cat.com. And all her books are there. You can buy anything. Yes, it's a plug. It is a plug.
Absolutely, please do.
But I didn't realize that women did this. So I looked over at her and I'm like, is that a thing? And she's like, oh yeah. Like there's ways that you would send a message. Like, I want to talk to you. I don't want to talk
Very cool.
to you. I'm interested. I'm not interested. I'm, among other things, I'm sure they got very naughty at one point. But I like whenever Myra Troy is sitting next to Enola, and they're up in the balcony looking down at everybody, and she's explaining to her the fans, and she gives her fan, and she goes, "I don't need this." And Enola's just like doing weird shit with the fan.
But sending messages.
She turns around and she looks at a guy and she looks up, and the guy's like, me? And he runs over and she's like, oh shit, what did I just do? She has no idea how to use the fan or what it's for.
So good.
But is the second one is where the second one isn't, but the first one is where they sent her off to the school.
Right.
And I looked over at Kat and I said, if she was really smart, the character like Enola was like really thinking, she'd be able to use the schooling for her detective work. That's how she would go into it. And
but
later
she's
on,
16, you're not going to look at the big picture.
But what's funny is when Sherlock comes to visit her, and I don't remember that in the conversation the first time I watched it, Sherlock is telling her, this is stuff you're going to need to know. Whether you want to be here for the reason Mycroft wants you here or not, these are things that you can use in your detecting and being a detective. And then he leaves, and she starts thinking like, oh, crap, yeah. That I should be thinking outside the box. And I thought that was an interesting scene.
Yes.
But the fact that Enola has no idea, and this is where staying in school would have helped her.
Mm-hmm.
She has no idea about what to do at these kind of dances, and she just blunders in.
She's so out of water, like a fish out of water.
All these multi-millionaires, and they're just looking at her like, who the hell is this little gal? you know. And I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I want to go to the second. I'm on IMBD, so let me just
Okay.
go to the second Enola Holmes because my knee jerk reaction to a race swap and gender swap character, I my knee jerk reaction was that's bullshit. Why are they doing that? And then I thought, ah, for the stories that they've been telling so far, and this story in particular, it makes total sense. And
So, which character are we referring to?
I'm going to get to that.
All right. Sorry.
Now, I say this knowing that they did do a race swap on this main villain, and initially that kind of bothered me, and initially the sex gender swap kind of bothered me. But like I said, when I stopped to think about it, my knee jerk reaction was, oh, come on, you guys are ruining the story. And then I was like, no, not
Didn't
really.
change it.
It actually makes sense for this story with what they were telling. It still would have worked if they would have left him a man with no problem. The story still could have worked, but it made it a better twist in the reveal. And it was Myra Troy Moriarty. Moriarty is
I got it.
Sherlock Holmes's
yeah, that's right. Yes. Yeah, and I completely missed that because I did not I've watched the second one, but it's been a while.
Right.
And I completely forgot about that. Because I know that's kind of his rival, Moriarty. It's like they're so that was I forgot about the mix of the name. It's like, son of a bitch.
Do you know how many more times Moriarty actually showed up in the original Sherlock Holmes?
How many?
Once.
Wow, that's it.
And that was in The Death of Sherlock Holmes when he falls off the falls. And when he comes back, he's running from his henchmen. So he's only shows up one time. He shows up a couple of times in radio dramas, old radio dramas that I've had. Moriarty has showed up in like 3 or 4, I think, that I'm aware of. But Moriarty is such a good character. It's like, initially, like I said, my knee-jerk reaction was, oh, you guys just ruined Moriarty. But then when I stopped to think about it for like 2 seconds, I was like, no, that makes sense. And that actress, here's the difference between, for me, folks, doing a race swap or a gender swap just to do a race swap or a gender swap, i.e., for me, the Doctor. When they just swapped out, they did the right thing for the wrong reason. Stories weren't that good. Story writers were bad. This story writer is very good. She had a good story. She had a reason for doing it and worked. You had also a good actress who was playing the part. And I should have seen it coming. Like the second time watching it, I see it. I'm like, holy crap. Right there. I saw it. It was right in my face. I knew who that person was, or I should have known who that person was. But and that's another thing that worked well with making her the black woman who was the personal assistant to the rich billionaire asshole, which you really like to see that guy get. Well, and that's even if Moriarty's the villain who does it.
Well, let me jump in. And I agree with you on this. That is a knee-jerk reaction. It's one I think most of us have. It's like, wait a minute, I remember this.
That doesn't work.
For this particular story, I think it was a smart move because instantly we're seeing this black woman who looks like she's underneath these people, but she is really in charge, and it's a good misdirect, and I think that's what it is.
And the funny thing is, or the good thing is, what I felt really like the writers were so good. The only thing she complained about was being a woman and not having the power that a man had, and then turning around and looking at the guy that she was working for and basically said, I'm 4 times smarter than this moron. And I had to work beneath him. Do you know, basically I had to lick his boots, and you know how fucking disgusting I find that? She doesn't swear, folks. So that's me. But that's like the attitude she's got. Like,
absolutely.
Breathing, and you see it. This actress plays that part.
Does it well.
So well. So I'm really hoping that she makes a return in the third one.
Well, and you mentioned Doctor Who, and we talked a lot about that. But
Mhm.
just forget Jodie Whittaker for a second. I think Michelle Gomez being the Master was a brilliant move.
It was a great move, but it worked and it
It
made
worked.
sense because it was all misdirection. You're like
Yep.
trying to figure out,
It's
like,
like
I
what
thought it
this
was,
is.
I forgot the woman's name, but she shows up in the seventh Doctor, when he first appears, he's regenerating, and I forgot what they call her, but she is a time.
I know what it starts with an R.
Yeah, yeah, and I can't think of
The
it.
rainy
The Rainy.
yeah.
See, I was thinking that that's who that was. I was
Yes.
like, that's brilliant. What a great move that they brought the Rainy back. This is cool.
Surprise.
And then surprise, it's not. It's, the
It's the
master.
Master.
Now it's the mistress, and which I thought was funny is somebody's calling her the mistress, and she's like, "Please don't call me that. Please don't call me that."
She was, and that was a case of done for misdirection, and it
But it
worked.
was also done well. It was
Yes.
a well written character. It made sense,
Mm-hmm.
and there you are. Now, had they done that with the Doctor and made sense out of making her a female, and then made sense just having good stories, that's the thing that killed me the most. And I literally couldn't watch her just because the stories for me were bad. They never went anywhere for me. I know there's going to be people out there screaming, going, "Oh, Dave, you're crazy. You didn't watch them all." No, I just couldn't. I'm sorry, folks. But with Moriarty switching over, and they did the swap, it all makes sense. It makes sense, and it's well written, and the actress was fantastic at it. So I really hope
Yes.
I don't know anything that she's ever done, but I hope that she has a really long career because she is a good actress and she plays a good villain. Holy crap, she plays a good villain.
She does, man. She really does on that. What
Sharon Duncan, let me get her full name because I want to make sure I'm saying it right. Sharon Duncan Brewster. Holy cow, she doesn't look anything like that. Like I'm on IMBD looking at her image on IMBD, and she doesn't look anything like that in the movie. She's very dowdy looking. They made her
yeah.
very dowdy looking, and here she's beautiful. She looks like a model. But they really dowdied her down,
Yeah.
and she's a good villain, man.
Yeah.
She
What
played
one
that
of the
part.
things I want to jump real quick, and then I'll get off the
Okay.
soapbox
Oh, go
because we
ahead.
we talk a lot about how people, uh, writers or showrunners change
Mhm.
race and sex.
Yeah.
And my general rule is if it's fictitious, I'm okay. As
Mhm.
long as the story's good, I'll let it go. When we get into historical people,
Yeah.
people who
No.
actually existed. And I'm going to give an example.
Mhm.
This is the first one I've seen, and I know there's many, and I refuse to watch the
Right.
show based on this. Is there was a series called Vikings, and it ended,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then Netflix picked up and said, "Oh, let's go 100 years past this."
I know
So
exactly who you're talking about.
it's about Jarl Håkon, who was a real legitimate ruler of Norway in the 900 AD era, a male.
Mhm.
In the show, he's a black female. I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense. Black people in Norway, sure, makes perfect sense back then. The connections that the Vikings had with the Middle East, the Arabs, there are people from all races in there. They're not all blonde hair, blue eyes. It's such a mix, and that was okay. But the Jarl himself was not a black woman. Just saying.
Well, that and the fact that most anybody who wasn't blonde haired, blue eyed was a slave. And then they'd get their freedom and then they'd become part of the tribe.
Yeah,
And then, I mean, but there's a whole long line.
right.
But like
But
you
there,
said,
black people in there was not
Jarl
a
was a
problem.
big white guy.
Yeah,
He was a big fucking mountain of a guy.
yeah, a real person, and
Yeah.
that's where I draw the line with a real person. I mean, come on now, we wouldn't do a Martin Luther King Jr.
No, I don't
movie
want to see
with
a white Martin Luther King. I don't want to
Ryan
see.
Reynolds as Martin Luther King.
Yeah, I don't
I
want to
mean,
see a Chinese Martin Luther
it
King. I
doesn't
don't.
make sense
No, it
because it
doesn't.
takes away from it. It takes away from it. It's like, why did you do that? It's
Well, you're
very
shitting on
obvious.
history, number one. But like you said, the reason so many characters, I mind so many characters being race swapped or sex swapped or
Mhm.
whatever swapped, is because if you have a 50 years of a character, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, we're going to make a movie and we're going to make them,
I mean, I get that.
a midget, gay porn star instead. Well, wait, what? That he was, that's not the character. The character is, a 6 foot tall straight guy who had 3 kids and was
Mhm.
married. That's the character. Well, not today. That's when I get offended. And I don't even want to say offended. It's like I'm not going to go see whatever that is.
I'm the same way. I'm not even offended. I'm just like, what the fuck are y'all thinking?
But you and I had talked about the Batman movie, which, by the way, speaking of bad ideas, they're coming out with a second Batman with that guy playing Batman again. Not going to bother watching it
Yeah,
until it comes on whatever I'm already paying for.
HBO.
And then I'm only going to watch it if you want to do a review on it.
I'll watch it. I'll watch it.
Again.
I didn't hate the Batman. I didn't hate it. If I take the last 10 minutes off, I might actually like the movie.
But like we were talking about Commissioner Gordon, the guy who played Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, Jeffrey Wright.
It should have been his movie.
It should have been.
And I would have been fine with that. Honest to God, I would have been fine with that guy being Commissioner Gordon in a Commissioner
I bought it.
Gordon,
I thought he was Gordon.
Yeah, New York, or not New York, but in a Gotham story tale.
But that is a case of a race swap that works. Because none of that matters to Gordon. Gordon's race doesn't matter. So,
and I almost didn't notice, and the reason I almost didn't notice it was he was well written and he was well acted.
There you go. Bingo.
That's the problem with most swaps of any sort.
It's done just to swap, not
well. They just got somebody that they knew who knew a guy who once knew a guy who shined his butt one time or whatever. It's just it's basically who you know, not what you know.
Well, yeah,
and a lot of those come through. I mean, that's
it's going to happen.
Yeah,
but anyway, let's get off our soapbox on because we can't ever fix Hollywood because you're just going to.
This woman, Sharon Duncan Brewster, I hope she has a really long career. She was
phenomenal.
Job.
This is a case where it worked really well.
Back. And I want to see, this is the fan in me, the fan of the Enola Holmes series. I want to see her and Helena Bonham Carter have a showdown.
Yes.
And I want to see, like, I just want to see that. I want the Helena Bonham Carter's character to be chasing her the whole time. Like, you think she's this big, revolutionary, rights for women thing, and she is, but that's not what's been going on the whole time. It's all been misdirection for her to go chase Moriarty.
There's so much with Mom. There's so much with Mom. I mean, we get down to the jailbreak was brilliant. I mean, all of this is
the jailbreak. The women all surround her.
It was great. It was smart. Explosion. This is a movie that it does have a message, and I think it swings it a little harder than the first, but it's still okay. It's still not. It's not blatant preaching.
It was still entertaining.
It's still very entertaining. Mm-hmm. It taught me some things. It was neat to learn about. And this is how things were. And I people didn't care about working conditions. And there's some corporations today that would love to go back to this real fucking quick.
Oh yeah.
So, it's good for people to take a look at, Do what? Did you say we work at one?
Amazon.
Oh.
No.
We work for one too. Here's your pizza. Shut up. Anyway, remind me to talk to you later after the show. I've got something
to think of anybody in here that needs to be mentioned and it hasn't been yet.
Yeah.
Oh, Himesh Patel is the guy who shows up and plays Watson. Boy, he doesn't look anything like.
He sounds familiar. That name sounds familiar.
Himesh Patel. He shows up as Dr. Watson at the end. There's not a whole lot with him, but he does show up.
It's enough for you to say, "Oh shit, it's Watson." Yeah.
The thing that I like about this movie more so than anything else is the relationship building between Enola and Sherlock.
Yeah.
They're starting to. She's already kind of liked him anyway, and he's begrudgingly starting to like her. I mean, it was his sister, and he did take her on as his own, but it's also like he doesn't know how to be a brother. He doesn't.
But he's better than Mycroft.
Oh yeah, and he knows it. Mycroft knows. That's why Mycroft just like, "Oh, take her. I don't care."
Just because it is an embarrassment to him. Mycroft was in these stories is more concerned about how he looks, and how the family name. But Mom is just as crazy as Enola.
Oh yeah, he doesn't want anything to do with the mom. You stop Mom, get her name out of the newspapers. I don't care. But yeah, I like the dynamic between those two as they start building their relationship.
Absolutely.
I'd like to see that built up more in the third one. And then I want to see Henry Cavill, just like you said, straight on Sherlock Holmes.
Let's
I
do
just
it.
want to see him do a Sherlock Holmes movie with Himesh
Somebody has
Patel.
got to floated that, because here's all the talk of Cavill. For the longest time, he's been rumored in the running for Bond. I don't see that happening, but I wouldn't complain at all.
I could see him as Bond now.
I absolutely could see it. I don't think it's going to happen,
No.
but
that's going to be a race gender swap that fails.
we shall see.
That's what I think. I think they're going to do something stupid with Bond that was never intended for a James Bond character, and it's going to fail miserably. And then they're going to blame whoever the actor is, and the actor is going to be like, I did what you told me to do. I mean, read
do
the words.
Do they ever? We know James Bond is a male, but has his race ever even been described?
He's been described in the very first book. He's a white guy with dark brown eyes, dark hair. That's why whenever what's his name came on.
Oh, that's right. Everybody freaked out about Daniel Craig having being blonde and blue-eyed.
Yep, that's why I was looking at Daniel Craig. I'm like, not James Bond.
He does a great job.
I'm that guy right here. I'm the guy who said not James Bond. I like his movies, but it's not James Bond. It's
really? Okay.
I look at those like those are just action flicks. Those are not James Bond movies. For me, I do not consider them James Bond movies.
Okay.
Consider them good action
and that's the problem. That's the problem that, because you have what you've latched onto. This is Bond to you. I get it. I mean, so it's, crazy. Absolutely crazy.
But these movies, for my money,
these are must watch.
She did a good job.
She did a really good job.
Oh, and Tewksbury does show up in this movie again.
Yes, he does.
And she keeps telling him, "You're a man when I tell you you're a man." Still.
You know what? And he takes it because he has such a love for her.
Yeah, he's got such a great fondness for her.
Yeah, he takes it.
It's absolutely great.
The chemistry is great. I have to mad props to Millie Bobby Brown for seeing this happen.
Good for
absolutely.
her. Good little actress she is.
And absolutely. She has really grown. I've watched her since she was really young on Stranger Things, and now she's 20 something and just I think that's where she's at.
Really?
She might be at least 20, 21. Wow. Yeah.
Probably like 2 heads taller than
they make her look very young in Stranger Things with the shaved head and everything. And she's supposed to play younger, but they've taken so long with that series that all the kids have outgrown their roles.
Yeah, they're all in their 20s.
They all look different. It's like, who is that? Yeah. So I like you. I want to give my final thoughts on the series of Enola Holmes. I think it is a great adaptation. I shouldn't say it's a great adaptation because I've never read the books, but I enjoy this story of Sherlock Holmes' younger sister who is following in his footsteps. And we've got 2 movies now that I like a good mystery. These are full of misdirection, action, comedy. The breaking of the fourth wall to me was brilliant. Sometimes that doesn't work. It becomes stupid. Yeah. Here, it was endearing.
You were almost expecting it at one time. There's a couple of times where you're almost expecting it, and she gives it to you, and you're like, there it is.
Yeah, just like you expect Deadpool to turn to the camera, you're going to expect this.
For me, like I said, I'm a huge Sherlock Holmes fan. Always have been. I listen to a lot of the radio programs.
Oh, wow.
The old radio. I've read all the stories, all the books. This should have been a big red flag. Don't watch, Dave. Don't do it, because there is no Enola Holmes in the books. They don't talk about Sherlock's mother. They don't talk about the father. The only family member he's got is Mycroft. That's the only one they ever talked about. There's so many things that should have never worked. And this woman, Nancy Springer, made it work. At least in these movies, they work really well.
Yeah. And it's a great concept.
I'm very happy with them. They work. And I was like, well, what if Sherlock did have a younger sister?
This is probably how she would
be. She would probably be the extreme opposite of Sherlock and Mycroft. As far as like being tidy and really having her shit together, because she is a young lady, and there is at that point in time not a whole lot for young ladies to do.
Well,
other than go get married.
Exactly.
Like, I don't want to get married.
I think why this works, and I can only speak for myself, growing up in the 70s through the 80s, I read a lot because, folks, we didn't have the internet.
Yeah. that
not the
having
way
a
it is now.
companion.
So I'd go to the library and check out books, and I would read a lot of detective stories. I was a
Yeah.
huge fan of the Hardy Boys, the
Oh
Nancy Drew
yeah.
books. And then I started reading the Mike Hammer series from Mickey Spillane at a very,
Oh
very
yeah.
early age. So kids are drawn to and I've read some Sherlock Holmes. God, it's been a long time, long
Yeah.
time. All I remember is the Hounds of the Baskerville, whatever.
It's a good one. That's a
Yeah.
good story. It's a really good
So,
story.
and I read a lot of Agatha Christie, and mysteries are great. And there was not a lot of young adult except for like the Hardy Boys and a few other things, which were good.
Encyclopedia Brown.
Encyclopedia Brown. So there's some cool stuff. So there's a market for it. So Nancy Springer taking, hey, here's Sherlock Holmes. These are great mysteries, great stories. What if he had a younger sister and we put her in that situation? She's not as physical. She's not able to, she's not just learning, and she's going to be put in awkward situations. It's a great formula. It just works. Everybody can relate to it.
And there's a respect for the base material.
Yes.
Which that's all I ask for from anybody who's going to do something. Just respect the material that came before it.
Yeah.
And then you'll do no wrong then. Because
I mean,
you have respect for the characters, you'll respect your own.
Yeah, we'll never know what Arthur Conan Doyle thought of this, but I'd hope he enjoys that somebody expanded his universe.
It's really hard to say because he's the guy who killed off Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Because he was jealous of his own creation, from what I've read. But he was smart enough to bring him back. And he did it in a really good way. So
very cool.
Those are good stories. If you read just two stories, read the Death of I think it's called The Death of Sherlock Holmes, and they talk about the falls. And then the one where it's the return, like first story where he's coming back, and it's like 5 years, 7 years later. It's been a while.
Wow.
And when he comes back, how he comes back, and it's just such a cool story. It's just so well done.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So these stories, I like them. Yeah. I'm hoping for a third one. I hope the third one is as good as the first two.
I hope so. And if they don't do another one, I got to enjoy a nice little offshoot, and I really, really look forward to see what Millie Bobby Brown does next. Yeah. I think she's going to go places. She's good. She's really good.
She's a good kid. Good actress.
So there you have it, folks. The Enola Holmes double feature from Old Ass Movie Reviews. Not that old ass, but really cool. Good. It takes place in an old period, a long time ago.
And I think we needed to talk about something newer and how we don't poo-poo every new thing.
We don't poo-poo every new thing. And guess what, folks? We don't poo-poo every racial gender swap either.
No, this one worked perfectly. This was a good one. This has worked really well.
Yep, when it's done for storytelling to advance the story in a way that will make it entertaining, it's good. And I'm gonna go to a quote. It's not a direct quote, but from Neil Druckmann, the creator of the video game The Last of Us, and now the show The Last of Us, which is kicking major ass in my opinion. They've made changes from the original story. And he has said, we took a look at it, because you're going from one medium, a game, where somebody has direct interaction with the story.
Right.
You can't translate that exactly. So what do you do with the characters and stuff? And he said, we decided to change some parts of the story. And if it worked and made it better, we went with it. This is his creation. And he said, if it didn't, we scrapped it. So they have started to make changes, and people are losing their mind. It's like, you got the creator here saying, he's making it the way he wants. The funniest thing, and I'll get off my soapbox again. Damn, I got a pile of them over here.
Soapbox. How many boxes you got over there?
I got a lot. Is people are upset of all the gayness of the show, and it's like, you clearly have not seen the source material. The main character is gay. Everybody's gay in it. Not everybody. I'm just kidding. It's just a big gay. It's a big gay show. It's the show itself is very
dying off.
The show itself is very progressive forward with its casting and topics and stuff like that. And it was when they did the game 10 years ago. It was it's just funny to see people crying. It's like they're holding true to it. Yeah, they changed. It's not the same town. Wah.
I know nothing about the game because I don't play video games.
Right.
I had no want to see this movie.
It's wonderful.
The television show. I've heard good things about it.
It is the Mandalorian. It is the Mandalorian. It's the Mandalorian. He's got a magic child that he has to escort across the U.S. It's the Mandalorian. I swear to God. It's the
You
same
know what this
formula.
reminded me of is a movie that you were in. That like just watching I think I saw the trailer and I was like, fuck.
Radio F
It
is
was Radio
loosely,
F with a big budget.
yeah. Yeah, it's Radio F. Primo Brown had loosely based it on The Last of Us because that is one of our all-time favorite games.
Really?
So we did base a lot
So it
of
was
the
a good pickup on my
interaction.
part. Okay, got it.
Grassy and Atari's interaction is a lot of it, for me at least, based on Joel and Ellie from The Last of Us.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I drew from because I'm a fan of it. Primo did the same thing. We kind of went with that on that movie. So
cool.
Yeah. So yes,
I didn't
nice
know
catch.
That.
Yes,
good.
absolutely.
I feel good about myself. I'm practically Enola Holmes.
Practically.
With no hair.
It means alone.
And then she finds out that it doesn't.
I know, that's so funny. Or does it?
All the word games are great.
I know. That's what's awesome. That's what's awesome. Folks, if you want to see a good, fun movie for all ages, this is definitely a watch. Both of them.
Yeah.
Both of them. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. So next week we're going somewhere. Who knows? But we will. We'll be back. Thanks again for joining us. Hit the like. Hit the subscribe. Hit the share. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, any podcast platform. Just look us up. Please share. Hook us up. We need more subscribers, more listeners, and just help us be found. Really appreciate y'all for listening. So catch you next week.
Have a good week.